Hey guys, this is Brad Wilson with Poker VIP. Hope you guys have had a great week getting ready for the cooler weather outside. Looks like this session has been going on for a little bit. I have actually pretty nitty stats at the top two tables. Because of our nitty stats, we are cold 4 betting with 10-5 off, starting the session off right. Gonna be a great video this time. I can feel it. Gonna let go of the King 7 off. Maybe could squeeze that as well. Gotta fold the deuces. Really. Oh. Looks like we're getting a little wild at the bottom left table. So we were the second caller pre-flop in that hand. It got checked to the guy last to act. I had to feel that he's going to be betting most of his range in position. We can rep an 8. He's going to be suspicious because we're repping pretty thin, but it's also really hard for him to just call with overcards. It's really hard for him to even call with, like a pocket 5s, 6-7 or something like that. And we actually risked, I think it was like $72 to win 64. So it only has to work greater than 50% of the time. I think those spots are being just under bluffed as a whole by the population. A lot of good value there if you can be aware. Well, at the bottom left table, I hope I just bluffed with my deuce high and didn't just call a bet. I didn't really see the action, but that would be a pretty funny board misread if I just called the river bet on a double paired board with deuces. I think these things tend to happen sometimes. If that was the case, I read a story about Victor Blom, who was facing a bet on the river and just snap folded. It was a live table, and he kind of laughed to himself and said, "Hey, wait a minute, let me see my cards again." And he picked them up and showed them the guy next to him, and he had folded the nut full house. He had binked it on the river and just forgotten what his cards were, and he said that sometimes he just acted too quickly, and those things just occasionally happen. I can say that I have on the river folded the best hand in a live game. I know that I've done it once because I specifically remember. Jack 9 suited, peeling 3 ways. Not much we can do on a deuce board. One of the easiest boards for the preflop raiser to just go ham on is tripped boards. They're playing with an uncapped range, and pretty much everybody else's range is capped at like pocket 8s, and they can just exert tons of pressure, generate lots of fold equity. Peeling with the King 10 at the top left, this particular villain is extremely fishy. Very, 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 very bad. Going to make terrible decisions post-flop. Nobody's going to be squeezing light just because they know how bad he is. We want to play pots in position. King 10 is not a hand that I advocate calling a 5x raise with unless the situation is pretty extreme. And this is definitely one of those spots. Peeling same size bet from villain. Would be betting turn. Probably still okay to call turn here and then bet river, but just folding. Will be better spots in the future. This villain's not going anywhere. Against a fish playing 75% of his hands, we really have to open 4x, maybe even 5x. Build pots. He's still gonna call. The size of our bets is not gonna dissuade him. If you aren't sizing up in those spots, I feel like you're making a pretty big mistake. I'm not sure if you guys know this or not, but I have recently also started a Twitch stream. It is twitch.tv/enhanceYourEdge, and John at PokerVIP has been so grateful to allow me to post on in the forums whenever my stream goes live. So I'll definitely be sure to do that. I'm very grateful for the support that I've gotten from the PokerVIP community. Ticking time bomb at the top left table. I would say kings is going to be a pretty good hand. Opening 4x, like I was just talking about, reading my own mind. Love the fact that the button called. Maybe this lunatic can squeeze. Maybe, or for almost certain, he's flatting. And he squeezes out of this world to 80 total. You know, I think I opted to flat in game. I think we can just go ahead and 4-bet this guy because he's not going to be folding very light. He's not going to be squeezing very light. He's not going to be folding either. But we did call. He also has a C-bet of 100%, so I did make an assumption that he's going to be C-betting. 100% of the time. We're gonna be getting extra bets from him post flop. Obviously, with top set, we're just gonna call. He's not gonna fold a diamond anyway. So just in the off chance he's got, like, you know, God only knows what, 7-8 of spades or something, we want him to put the last bet in. As it was, Villain, who is playing 76% of his hands, woke up with aces. And got there on the river. Can't really be upset about the result in that hand. I mean, if we want the chips to go to any place at the table, that's the guy we want them to go to. 9-10 suited at the top right, pretty easy open. 2.5x bet by the 5 seat at the top left table. I will give the 5 seat credit. It is really different playing against somebody who's doing things like 2.5x pot betting and opening 5x pre-flop. Like, it's really we get lulled into the normal patterns of 3x or minimum raises, and we 3-bet to, you know, like 7 big blinds, 2 big blinds to 7 or 8, over and over and over and over again, and then you get some cat that just comes in opening 5x, and you're like, whoa, like, what's the adjustment? The obvious adjustment is, you know, he's risking more money to win less money, so we could just play a little tighter, wait for better hands. then if he's doing that super regularly and bombing off post-flop, we can call with marginal hands, flop a pair, and pretty much just call him down. Squeeze with the 9-10 off. We can 4-bet here. It looks like we are going to pull the trigger. My major concern about 4-betting there is if the 4-seat thinks a 3-seat is like a major whale and is going to be calling his squeeze some percent of the time, then he's going to be more weighted towards value. But even still, if he has a hand like ace-jack or pocket nines, he can still squeeze and be perfectly happy with the 3-seat peeling. So 3-betting the ace-8 off for value in position against the whale. Do not love seeing the 3-seat flat. Since the 3-seat flatted, we cannot put another bet in this pot. Maybe we can fold out the 3-seats like king-queen suited or something like that, but he just has so many jacks and tens, like his lead is not very good, by the way. I would much rather at least let me or the whale put in another bet. If I call him, then he's basically drawing to 2 outs. You always want to allow your opponents to bluff. Give them the opportunity at least, especially when you have a marginal hand. When you have a marginal hand, you want to allow your opponents to put the last bet in. You don't want to be making the last bet yourself, because what can he call with if he's only going to call? Like if you have a marginal hand where you beat bluffs but you lose to all the value, when you put the last bet in, guess what you're getting called by? You're getting called by all the value. You're folding out all the bluffs. Looks like the bottom left table is pretty good as well, and the bottom right table. Top right table looks good too. We got a 3x pot bet happening, and he got called. That is interesting, and now I'm going to assume that the 4-seat disappears off into the void. Oh, he reloaded and said nice call. How nice of him. Going to be expecting the 4-seat to just go absolute ham after getting stacked. Looks like the 5-seat at the bottom left played his Jack-7 a little better than I played mine. Guys, I don't know if y'all have checked out my website, www.enhanceyouredge.com. I'm the lead instructor there. Very much love putting out my newsletter, getting subscribers. I'm a real stat geek. I love providing value for everybody that happens across my website. One of my favorite things actually is taking a couple of hours a week and writing to create content for my newsletter. The 8s at the bottom right. Getting flatted out of position. Don't think we have a ton of showdown value. Think he's going to have a decent amount of queen X's. Potentially some straight draws, potentially 6s or 7s that we do beat. We're just hoping to get to showdown here. And he bet so small that maybe we can call the river and hope that he shows up with 6-7 or pocket sevens, but I mean it's still. I think the river is probably just a fold on Queen X. But yeah, my mom reads my newsletter, so it has to be great, right? She was my very first subscriber. Looks like the whale went bust again, and now he's officially gone into the void. So the 10 tray off at the top left. Basically, my reasoning is this: even though the 6 seat is playing tight, he is still going to be isolating against this particular fish at that depth, very wide, which makes our 10 tray off a great candidate for bluff 3 betting. 10 tray has pretty much no value flatting post flop out of position, so we're just turning a hand that has no value into a profitable hand because of the situation that we're presented with. Your actual cards should not matter in certain situations. Certain situations that come up are just going to be profitable to take a certain action, and you can just have 2 napkins. Who cares what you have? Make the play that is just going to get you the money long term. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I mean, how much trouble can we really get into out of position in a 3-bet pot with 10 tray off? I mean, if you're a maniac, like if you decide that you want to put in extra bets post flop, then of course you're going to get into trouble. But the way that I look at it is poker is comprised of a bunch of mini battles, and that pre-flop action is just going to be profitable. Post-flop, it's not going to be profitable betting. I know that. If that's where the battle rages to the flop, then we just give up. We're just done. We know that we won long-term pre-flop. We don't have to do anything to compensate post-flop. I think that's a mistake that a lot of inexperienced players make. They get like the sunken cost fallacy of they have X money invested in the pot. Now they feel the need to chase after it with more bets and try to bluff stronger ranges and end up going broke and bluffing in spots where it's just completely hopeless. You have to be able to just let go. Didn't really see the action on the king queen versus flop set of 10s at the bottom right. Hope they got it in on the flop, but have this feeling that unfortunately it was probably on the turn with 4 to a straight. Five seat at the top left, gets a chink in his armor. It's okay, he still has 200 big blinds thanks to our kings versus his aces. Looks like we got a fish at the bottom left table, limping under the gun. We opt to isolate the jack-9 off. Perfectly reasonable. Gutter ball, blocking queen-jack. Do not assume that he has a lot of queen X's. We are going to be just betting. The thought on the turn here is how much can we size the turn to shove the river. And this is going to leave him with about $110 in a $130 pot. And there we go. you don't want to inflate the pots on the turn so that he has any kind of a reasonable calling price on the river, because weak players will talk themselves into calling. Like if we would have bet larger on the turn and then he's actually getting like 3 to 1 on the river, then they will call. You want to do that with your value hands. If you're gonna if you are setting up a multi-street bluff versus a fish, then set it up right. Make that last bet hard to call. A lot of times I'll even set it up to where the last bet is like a 1.3, 1.5x over bet, because fish care about the size of the bet. If there's 250 in the pot and you bet 400, most of them are just going to be afraid of calling 400 because it's a lot of money. They're not going to get curious with a medium strength hand. If they have a good hand, then that's a completely different story. They sit there and they'll probably think to themselves something like, why so much? Which is the worst thing that you could have a fish thinking. Why did you bet so much? Because that means the call is inevitable. So we have a situation that I was just kind of discussing. Overbet jamming with the 9-5. Raise pre, bet flop, bet turn, jam river. If he wants to call us with a 6, be our guest. We are pretty bluff heavy there, but he doesn't know that. That's a spot where if we bet $84, maybe he gets curious and calls, knowing he only has to be right a small percentage of the time. With the overbet, he has to be right more often. And maybe he doesn't want to go broke. Maybe that $170 is the last money in his account and he wants to play for a little while. It's perfectly reasonable. Could have 3-bet the Jack-10 of hearts, actually. Don't really mind getting it in versus the limper if that's what he opts to do. I think the 6 seed is going to be isolating him pretty wide. In retrospect, would have liked to have 3-bet the Jack-10 suited instead of folding it. 3-betting the King-10 off. Think that the under the gun dead money incentivizes. They're the UTG +1 dead money incentivizes under the gun to raise, which incentivizes us to 3-bet. Shouldn't be a very good board for him. He can call us pretty light. We do have to reach back, grab the cannonball, start getting ready to load it for the next barrel on the turn. Luckily, we sunk his ship without having to resort to cannonball number 2. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but a little bit of pirate cannonball trivia. It was very dangerous to even shoot cannonballs back in the day because they had a tendency to explode on the shooter. I guess this can be kind of like poker. We load our cannonballs up, let them loose, and get a backfire and blows up in our face, and now all of a sudden we have a peg leg for the rest of our lives. Ace Queen off at the top left. Should be isolating more, actually. Should make it 20, even 24. Why not? This guy's going to play pretty much every hand no matter what. Not the greatest of boards to c-bet ace-6 suited. As soon as I say he's going to play every single hand, he decides to prove me wrong and fold. Maybe he knew I was going to make this video in the future. I know this is going to be kind of a spoiler alert, but we do not opt to not get him. We just unfortunately cannot get the 5 seat at the top left table. He goes on an epic run, runs it up to $2,900 when I eventually wave my red flag and quit. And it all goes back to that one kings versus aces hand. If the kings hold against his 6-outer, then he just goes off into the night and doesn't torture the world. But unfortunately, he does end up torturing the world. And it's kind of amusing to me too, because I know that all the regs at the table, whenever he binked his queen against my top set, all the regs cheered. But I know the gruesome outcome of the story is that he just tortures everyone for another like 6 hours. I don't know the odds of him doing that. I know it has to be like Jamie Goldish running good for like 7 days straight. Folding the ace-jack off versus the ISO raise. Could have 3-bet it, actually. Could have raised the pocket 7s at the top left table. Ace-queen suited at the top right. That's going to be fun. Peeling with the 7s, even though the 2-seat limped under the gun, bet out 4-way action. Peeling again on the turn. I don't expect him to bet the king. I actually don't expect to win this at all. If he bets the club on the river, obviously we have to fold. Getting 6-1, opted not to fold the turn, but folding can't be that wrong if it even is wrong. Even though we were getting a great price on our money, he bet out 4 ways against the fish. He can't really expect the fish to fold, and he limped under the gun, so he has probably a pretty uncapped range. Looks like we've got about a minute left in this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Brad Wilson, creating content for PokerVIP and EnhanceYourEdge.com. Check out my Twitch stream. Going to be a morning stream, Eastern Time. Going to be starting at around 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern Time. In UK is 5 or 6 hours ahead of me, so that's 2 to 3 p.m. Right in the middle of your day. Nothing too exciting with the ace-queen. And looks like this video is coming to a close. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to give it one last hand to try to do something to the 5 seat at the top left. Queen deuce off, probably not going to get the job done. As I said, nothing gets the job done against this guy. He's basically an evil villain. Alright, thank you very much for listening. Until next time.